Good evening and happy Friday. This is Shana from the Trade Exchange, and it's been a very busy week for us because we are in the midst of earnings season. And speaking of earnings, in one major company that is an often talked about stock, I can probably guess who it is. Well, they beat on revenue, but they missed on earnings by over $1. So who am I talking about? Well, if you didn't guess it, it's Amazon. Amazon did great on revenue. They had a revenue estimate 37.18 billion. Well, they say it came back with 37.95 billion. They do great on revenue. It was earnings where they missed. Their earnings estimate was $1.42. They missed by over $1, coming in at 40 cents. And that is the worst profit Amazon's reported since 2001. You see the market respond. They opened up the next day about 3% lower, and they closed out the week. They were down today about 2.5%. You can't feel too bad for Amazon. Amazon is still up 37% just this year, which is 3 times the S&P. And you got to give them credit. I mean, they started as a bookstore, and then they now talk about outer space and meal delivery kits and acquiring Whole Foods and partnering with Sears and selling their Kenmore products with the Alexa, and the list goes on. And then Business Insider comes out this week, and they said not only is Amazon involved in all that, but they plan on going after your payment gateway systems, and they also plan on possibly designing shoes and handbags and going after Coach and Michael Kors. So they seem to have their fingers in a lot of honeypots. But speaking of Michael Kors, take a look at this, because Michael Kors has also been in the news because Michael Kors is acquiring Jimmy Choo. So if you recall back in April, Jimmy Choo's majority owner, JAB, put Jimmy Choo up for sale because they indicate they want to focus more on consumer goods. So they put it up for sale, and now it's been approved by both the respective boards, by Jimmy Choo and Michael Kors, to be acquired, and they are acquiring it for $1.17 billion. So you see the market's reaction. It was down over 3% on the news. It opened the next morning down. However, traders finally got on board, and it actually went up this week. It closed up over 4% this week, so they did definitely turn things around. And who else was in the news today? Tobacco companies. So take a look at these tobacco charts. I'm going to show you right here, because this is Philip Morris, but Philip Morris, Altria, British Tobacco. If you looked at any of these charts, these big tobacco companies, you would see this huge drop. Now what happened? Well, for all you smokers out there, the FDA is planning on possibly regulating and making sure that tobacco companies minimize the amount of nicotine in cigarettes, so that way it's below the addictive level. So on that news, traders felt, wow, this is going to be terrible for tobacco companies if they have to cut back the nicotine level, and the stocks start plummeting. You see it right here. The Philip Morris dropped over 6.5%. So how did they turn it around? Well, then Jefferies comes out, and Jefferies says, you know what, this isn't such a bad thing if they cut back nicotine, because now the volume growth for vapors could increase. This could give them favorable tax treatment. This could be profit growth. So the market turn around, and Piper comes down and says, yeah, that's true. This could be a great thing for profit. Cutting back nicotine might not be so bad after all. And not only does Philip Morris take back all those losses, but they actually closed up the day higher, closing up spot 27% higher on the day. So they really turned things around. Take a look at crude oil. So crude oil did great this week. It posted one of the highest weekly gains of the year. It's up 9.03%. And this rally really started on Monday. So you recall that meeting that we spoke about previously with the OPEC nations in Russia getting together, and Saudi Arabia said that they're going to have cuts in August, and that began the rally on Monday. And then Tuesday, the API data came out, bigger draw than expected, rally continues. Wednesday, EIA numbers come out, rally continues, bigger draw than expected. And so that continued and continued. Well, today, Baker Hughes numbers did come out, and the U.S. is still piling on those oil rigs. So the U.S. total rig count is up 8 at 958, and the U.S. oil rig count is up 2 at 766. So the big thing to focus on with oil is Venezuela. So with Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro is possibly going to be rewriting the Constitution. And one of the pitfalls, if that does happen, is not just possible international sanctions and possible protests, but their state oil giant PDVSA could default, and that could reduce the exports coming out of Venezuela, which could push up the price of oil. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with oil. Speaking with technical analysts, they said that oil has passed its 200-day moving average, which is a key resistance level. And so they think the rally could be near its end, but a lot's to be determined with Venezuela and everything else going on involving oil. So we'll see what happens going on with crude. But crude, again, is up 9.03% for the week, closing out the week at 49.80. Looking at our 10-year, so our 10-year yield turned things around this week. You say going up in anticipation of the Fed meeting that was on Wednesday. And the Fed meeting, it went off just as expected. So What were the results? Well, no one really expected the interest rate increase, and that's what happened. Interest rates remained steady, and they said that the balance sheet reduction is going to happen relatively soon. So you see a bit of a sell-off right there in the 10-year yield, and it closed out the week at 2.291. And looking at the market as a whole, we can see what happened here. The Dow closed out up for the week, 1.15%. S&Ps closed down relatively flat. They closed down lower at 0.01% at 2472. Now the Nasdaq took a bit of a beating this week with tech stocks taking some hits. They closed down 0.2% this week at 6374, and our VIX closed down 10.29. But what is interesting is the VIX actually hit an 8 handle this week, which we haven't seen, so that was pretty neat to see. And last but not least, gold. Gold closed at 1275.50, so gold is up as well, 1.59% for the week. I want to thank you all for joining me, and I look forward to joining you next week as earning week continues. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Have a great night. Bye-bye.